Hello, I'm going to take you on a journey on how you, as our current serving veterans, can access the support and services provided by DVA. Before I start, I think it's important you understand DVA's long history of supporting veterans just like you. In early 1917, in the midst of the First World War and with an Allied victory not yet in sight, Prime Minister Billy Hughes made a promise to the country's armed forces on behalf of the Australian people. "When you come back, we will look after you," he declared. As well as bringing home the troops from overseas, the Repatriation Commission and Department, as DVA was previously named, provided war pensions, healthcare, education and training, employment, housing, soldier settlement, remembrance and commemoration. In 1976, the Repatriation Department was rebranded the Department of Veterans Affairs, and we have continued to deliver services to veterans and their families. We acknowledge that times have changed, and so have your needs. DVA is now in year 4 of a significant transformation program, a multi-year journey to overhaul how we do business. We are transforming our services to become better connected and more responsive. A part of this transformation is the way we're delivering DVA services on defence bases. I'll touch on a number of these initiatives throughout this presentation. Today I'm going to guide you through the career of an ADF member and explain the support and services available to you during your service and when you've transitioned. I'll provide a case study of an ADF member who routinely engaged with DVA while in ADF service. During service, Defence is your health provider. However, this ceases upon transition. DVA provides private health cover within Medicare provisions for non-liability healthcare and your accepted defence-related injuries and illnesses. So it's important that you routinely submit injury and illness claims to DVA throughout your career so that you have all your conditions accepted at the time of transition. I'll now explain how you can do this. The first thing you should do is sign up to MyService. MyService is DVA's digital front door and has an online claims capability, getting veterans the support they need faster. To access MyService, you'll need a MyGov account and you'll need to link DVA to this account, just like you would with the ATO or Centrelink. To do this, you'll need to provide proof of ID and an activation or linking code will be emailed or sent to you via SMS. Once you've linked DVA to your MyGov account, you can access the MyService portal via MyGov or via DVA's website. When you establish your MyService account, make sure you complete all of your details, including your bank account details. This will ensure that any future DVA payments will be paid directly into your nominated bank account. If you're not yet covered by non-liability healthcare or you don't have a DVA veteran card, apply for this through your MyService account. Once a DVA veteran card is issued, you can access free mental health treatment under non-liability healthcare. Non-liability healthcare eligibility has expanded to those Defence members with 1 day of continuous full-time service and to include reservists that have reserve service days on disaster relief operations like Bushfires Assist or border protection operations such as Operation Resolute. If during reserve service you were involved in a serious training accident, including as a witness, you may be eligible for non-liability healthcare. If you require any assistance, please call, send an email, or request a callback. DVA Help Assistance is located on the right-hand side of the DVA or MyService homepage. Remember, you don't need a diagnosis before applying for non-liability healthcare mental health. MyService links with My Account, which is the old DVA online self-service platform. In time, MyService will replace all functions of My Account. When you establish a MyService account, this is the page you'll see. If you haven't provided your bank account details, this can be completed under the profile icon. I'll briefly explain the important areas of MyService while you're still serving. The important MyService functions that will allow you to access DVA support and services while you're serving are initial liability. This is the determination process of whether you're eligible for compensation and treatment for illness or injury. I'll discuss this in more detail in a following slide. Mental health treatment. This initiates a DVA veteran card. By following the prompts for free mental health treatment, your PM Keys data is accessed by DVA and will automatically determine if you're entitled. If you are entitled, a DVA veteran card will be sent to your mailing address. Request veteran card. This icon will activate your request for your lapel pin, covenant certificate, and a DVA veteran card if you don't already have one. Incapacity payments. I'll talk about incapacity payments in a later slide. Qualifying service. Qualifying service is no longer a function on MyService, as it's automatically determined once you establish a MyService account. I will also discuss qualifying service in more detail later. The mental health and the covenant icons will disappear from the page after you have requested either service. There are 3 ways you can engage with DVA. Self-service via MyService, DVA assisted via a veteran support officer, and finally through an external organisation claims advocate. I'll now explain self-service via MyService. If an injury occurs, lodge a claim as soon as possible with DVA so it's recognised as service-related, even if you're not currently financially disadvantaged and Defence is paying for treatment. Things may change in the future, and it can speed up access to support when you need it. Lodging an injury or illness claim on MyService is a simple process and is through initial liability. To help DVA help you, it's recommended you do the following. Input the diagnosis as accurately as possible using the diagnosis that is written on the medical report. Attach evidence to support your claim. Provide succinct points to assist the delegate. Note that just because an injury or illness happens during service, it doesn't mean it can automatically be accepted. You'll need to explain how the condition is service-related. One claim per injury or illness, for example, a strained right and left hamstring equals 1 claim for the left and 1 claim for the right. During service, you can access DVA support for the following. Mental health treatment through non-liability healthcare. Remember, your health provider while serving is Joint Health Command, and you should always consider using this support service in the first instance. Incapacity payments. This is for a loss of ADF allowances or salaries. If you suffer a service-related injury or illness that results in a loss of allowance or salary, then you may be entitled to incapacity payments. Your first step is to submit the injury or illness claim on MyService under initial liability. And as part of the process, you'll be asked if you have been financially disadvantaged. This will trigger the incapacity payment process. An example of an incapacity claim is that you sustained an injury on a field deployment that attracted hard-lying allowances. If you were removed from the field, Defence will cease your allowances. Through the incapacity payments process, DVA will liaise with Defence to determine if you were eligible to receive these allowances, and if Defence confirms you were financially disadvantaged, then DVA will pay you the allowances. Permanent impairment. This is compensation for service-related injuries and illnesses. I'll discuss permanent impairment in a later slide, but you need to consider carefully when it's most appropriate to request an assessment. You need to understand that DVA will share your permanent impairment and initial liability assessments with Defence. Household services. If during service you sustain a defence-related injury that restricts your ability to complete household services, DVA may be able to provide assistance. For example, you've broken your leg and you need assistance to mow your lawns. To access this support, I strongly suggest you speak with a VSO who'll assist you through the process. Another way to engage with DVA is to be assisted by a Veteran Support Officer. An interview with a Veteran Support Officer takes around 40 minutes. During this time, you can expect the following points to be covered: guidance on submitting claims, reviewing service-related injuries or illnesses, tracking claims and providing options if a claim is not accepted, and connecting you to other DVA support. Once your appointment is completed, a Veteran Support Officer will spend time summarising the conversation and provide an email of what was covered and the next steps. To ensure that the interview is the best use of your time, come prepared with your MyGov and preferably MyService account, along with any service history and injury information. Most importantly, your desired outcome for the meeting. DVA and Defence have agreed that Veteran Support Officers will prioritise support to medically transitioning members and those with complex cases. However, you can request an interview with a Veteran Support Officer at any stage in your career, and there are no limits to the amount of meetings you can attend. While you are serving, our goal is to provide you with the necessary assistance and knowledge to empower you to self-manage your DVA business. The final way to engage with DVA is through an external organisation claims advocate. These services are normally provided by ex-service organisations such as the RSL. Advocates provide a very good support to veterans with complex cases or those members who have difficulty in linking injuries to defence service. DVA and advocates have an excellent working relationship, and a Veteran Support Officer will recommend you to an advocate if they believe your situation necessitates their support. However, most DVA business is relatively straightforward and can be easily self-managed or completed with the assistance of a Veteran Support Officer. When are you covered by DVA? Well, you're covered travelling to and from work, at work, and for work-related activities. DVA may accept injuries sustained while conducting physical training after hours that can be linked to maintaining general fitness, for example, running and a gym workout. In this situation, you're recommended to submit a claim with a contention statement explaining your work role and the activity undertaken. To cover yourself, it's strongly recommended you receive written approval from your supervisor, authorising after-hours physical training, and where appropriate, lodge the injury on Sentinel. These documents can be used as supporting evidence and will assist in the DVA investigative process. This is particularly relevant to reserve members. I mentioned earlier that DVA is transforming to be more responsive in supporting veterans. The introduction of streamlined processing is another example. The Military Rehabilitation and Compensation Commission has approved a policy where in certain appropriate cases, delegates will be able to streamline the investigation and decision-making processes. Once a diagnosis has been established, the Military Rehabilitation and Compensation Commission has approved a suite of medical conditions that can generally be accepted as service-related without further investigation of the material raised in the claim. That said, the member's length of service and activities during service will be taken into consideration. This slide only displays some of the 40 conditions covered under the streamlined processes. You'll note that some of the injuries and illnesses are in yellow text. These are streamlined injuries and illnesses covered under both the Veterans Entitlement Act and the Military Rehabilitation and Compensation Act 2004. DVA and Defence share information. Generally, if you're submitting injury and illness claims for initial liability acceptance, then the evidence you are providing is from your Defence health records. So Defence already knows these injuries and illnesses. However, if you decide to request financial compensation for injuries and illnesses through the permanent impairment process, you need to ensure that the information you provide to DVA is consistent with your medical classification. The determination from your permanent impairment is forwarded to Defence to ensure they have visibility of your health and well-being. Inconsistencies may lead Defence to review your medical classification. You may be aware that DVA assesses veterans' claims under 3 different acts. Which act your injury or illness is covered by will depend on the service which caused or aggravated the condition. That is, when did it occur? Was it peacetime or operational? I'll briefly discuss the key differences between the 3 acts and non-liability healthcare. MyService will automatically determine which act your injury or illness is covered by when you submit a claim through initial liability. If you need further information, please make an appointment with a Veteran Support Officer. Veterans Entitlement Act 1986. This Act covers all operational service, warlike, non-warlike and peacekeeping up to 30 June 2004 and certain peacetime service between 1972 and 1994. Financial compensation is only via a fortnightly pension. There is no lump sum, and to receive a gold card, you must be determined to have 100% disability. Safety, Rehabilitation and Compensation Act. Defence-related claims. Covers all peacetime service up to 30 June 2004 and some operational service from 1994 to 2004. Some service members will have dual coverage under both the VEA and the DIRCA. But if you get the same incapacity cover under each act, offsetting will apply. Each claim is assessed individually on merit. It's not a whole-of-body assessment. There is no gold card and financial compensation is only via a lump sum for each injury. Military Rehabilitation and Compensation Act covers all service from 1 July 2004, regardless of whether it's peacetime, non-warlike or warlike. Financial compensation is provided via lump sum, a fortnightly pension or a combination of these. And to receive a gold card, you must be determined to have 60 impairment points. Non-liability healthcare is for treatment only and there is no financial compensation. We've noted all continuous full-time service and certain reserve service gets you free mental health treatment. Cancer and TB treatment is available to all members who have operational service, warlike, non-warlike or peacekeeping, and those with 3 years continuous full-time service between 1972 and 1994. DVA will draw this information from your PM keys. It's worth noting that for an operation to be considered non-warlike or warlike, a determination must be made by the Minister. If such a declaration has not been made for an operation, DVA will default it to peacetime service. For the purposes of DVA legislation, receiving an operational service medal does not necessarily indicate that a veteran has been on operational service. For instance, border protection operations attract the Operational Service Medal, but it's considered peacetime service. As you progress through your military service, your personal circumstances and nature of employment may change. The Defence Home Ownership Scheme and the Defence Service Home Insurance are administered by DVA. So if you find yourself needing information regarding home insurance or a home loan, then DVA staff can help. Recent changes to eligibility for Defence Service Home Insurance Scheme means all current and former ADF members who have at least 1 day's continuous service can access insurance from 1 January 2020. Open Arms provides free and confidential counselling to all ADF members who have served at least one day in the ADF. Support is available to you and your family during service, while transitioning and post-service. Open Arms does not share information with Defence or DVA unless you have provided consent. Deploying on warlike operations gives you what is known as qualifying service and makes you eligible for a greater range of benefits. An Australian veteran with qualifying service is eligible for a DVA Veteran Gold Card at 70, and depending on your financial situation, you may also be eligible to receive an Australian Service Pension at age 60. Service pension is essentially the age pension, except you can receive it earlier. Once you activate a MyService account, DVA will draw your PM Keys data and will determine your eligibility for qualifying service. Qualifying service is determined by deploying on operations that Defence classifies as warlike. Many classified operations will not automatically populate across into MyService. In this situation, a member can ask DVA to check their eligibility, and DVA will send a request to Defence for clarification. This may be relevant to Special Forces, submariners, and aircrew. DVA only requires evidence of your presence on one warlike operation to determine your eligibility. From the time you join ADF, you should always be considering what's next. Next posting, next life goal, and what you want to do when you leave the ADF. Your departure from the military is a given, whether it's 5 or 25 years, medically or voluntarily. So have a plan. It's highly recommended that all ADF members schedule an appointment with a Veteran Support Officer prior to transitioning. A Veteran Support Officer will be able to assist in ensuring all your defence-related injuries or illnesses are submitted to DVA for assessment of liability. They can explain the DVA support and services available post-transition and explain how to use your DVA Veteran Card. I'll now talk you through how an ADF member used a Veteran Support Officer to lodge claims and the DVA support she was entitled to post-separation. As Michelle entered service in 1999, any injuries prior to June 2004 can be assessed under the Defence Rehabilitation and Compensation Act. Additionally, if she injured herself in a warlike operation before June 2004, this can also be assessed under the Veterans Entitlement Act. Michelle met with the Veteran Support Officer, who assisted her with lodging all of her service-related injuries. This included hearing loss. This is a streamlined condition and was accepted with no evidence but linked to loud noises during service. Sprains and strains. This is a streamlined condition and was accepted with supporting documents. OA right knee. This is a streamlined condition and was accepted with a CT scan report, and it was linked to trauma, load carriage and repetitious use in service, like climbing stairs. Once transitioned from CERCAT 6 or 7, Michelle can access medical treatment for her defence-related injuries on her DVA Veteran White Card and access free mental health treatment. If Michelle is diagnosed with cancer or TB, she can provide DVA with the diagnosis and the treatment will be paid for. Due to her operational history, Michelle may have access to the service pension at age 60, and she will be entitled to a DVA Veteran Gold Card at age 70. The introduction of provisional access to medical treatment is another example of how DVA is transforming to support veterans. Under this trial, if you lodge a claim under the Military Rehabilitation and Compensation Act or the Defence Rehabilitation and Compensation Act for these commonly accepted conditions, you don't have to establish liability before accessing necessary treatment. If you lodge these claims while still serving, you will not receive a letter from DVA approving the provisional access to medical treatment. It is recommended that when you approach your transition date, you email DVA requesting a letter for provisional access to medical treatment with the claim reference number or numbers and your DVA card number. You can take this letter with your DVA Veteran White Card to access medical treatment for the injury or illness. If the condition is accepted, you may also be eligible for compensation. If the condition is not accepted, your treatment from DVA will cease. This trial is all about getting help to veterans faster, and in time, it may pave the way for better service delivery into the future. So how do you access DVA support and services? DVA is automatically issuing DVA Veteran White Cards to members as they transition from the ADF so they can access free mental health services and treatment for previously recognised service-related conditions. If you require treatment through your DVA Veteran Card, you must first consult a GP who will provide a diagnosis and, if required, refer you for further support. Annual veteran health checks will be available to former serving members who transitioned from the ADF on or after 1 July 2019. These are fully funded by DVA via the members' DVA Veteran Card. Veterans can access one treatment per year for 5 years from the date of transition. Incapacity payments may be available for economic loss due to the inability or reduced ability to work because of an injury or disease that has been accepted as service-related. To be eligible, you must have medical certification that you are either totally or partially incapacitated for work as a result of a service-related condition. Incapacity benefits are calculated on the difference between your normal earnings and your actual earnings at the time you are incapacitated for service or work. You'll receive incapacity benefits for as long as you are incapacitated for service or work, you participate in your rehabilitation, your actual earnings are less than your normal earnings, and you are under the age for an aged pension. You can claim for incapacity payments through MyService or via an online form located on the DVA website, but it's recommended that you ring DVA to explain your circumstance so we can guide you through the process. You'll need to support your claim for incapacity benefits with medical evidence stating that you are totally or partially unfit for service or work due to the effects of a service injury, disease, or illness. You may be eligible for compensation payments if you have sustained physical or psychological impairment or incapacity related to your defence service. These payments are in respect of the permanent impairment caused by the injury and do not reflect any loss of current or future earnings. The type of permanent impairment payment and the amount payable depends on the period of service when your injury was sustained. You can lodge a claim for permanent impairment in person at a DVA office, complete the general inquiries form on the DVA website, or call DVA on 1-800-VETERAN. As mentioned before, you cannot request a permanent impairment assessment on MyService. The veteran payment is designed to provide interim financial support to veterans who lodge a claim for a mental health condition under either the Military Rehabilitation and Compensation Act 2004, MRCA, or the Safety Rehabilitation and Compensation Defence-Related Claims Act 1988, DRCA, and are waiting for a determination. To be eligible, you must also be incapable of working more than 8 hours per week and have income and assets below the cutoff. If you need this type of support, I recommend you speak with a VSO or ring DVA as soon as possible to get immediate support. DVA provides support to veterans and their families through a range of services and payments, including ongoing or one-off payments. These services are designed to assist you to manage your health and lifestyle. The challenge for DVA is knowing when a veteran needs assistance. The DVA website is a great source of information on the support services that are available, ranging from rehabilitation support, return to work programs, to open arms. If you're ever in doubt, you can ring DVA and explain to our staff what assistance you need. During this presentation, I've outlined the DVA support and services available to you during and post your military career. You will have unique needs that will determine the type of support that's best for you. DVA can only provide this support if we know what your individual circumstances are. The key takeaway points from this presentation are: 1. Log on to MyGov and register for MyService. 2. If you don't have a DVA veteran card, request one through the MyService mental health icon. 3. Make an appointment with a VSO to commence your DVA journey. And 4, most importantly, if you are ever in a situation that you need wellbeing support, then please ring DVA or Open Arms immediately. Remember, DVA is here to ensure you and your family's well-being is looked after, but you need to be proactive in the process to access the support and services appropriate to your individual circumstances. This information graphic provides a valuable tool for ADF members to understand how and when to engage with DVA. If you haven't commenced your relationship with DVA, then I strongly recommend you do so.